25, and our friend Paul Craig Roberts is joining us. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Nima.
Paul, we talk about the case of Charlie Kirk, but it seems that nothing is happening in that because many people were thinking, what has happened? What has really happened? It seems as time goes by, many doubts are coming out. Many people are so skeptical about what's going on, the process that is going on. Today, I talked with Larry Johnson. He said, with the rifle that they're arguing, the Tyler Robinson has used, it's not possible because from that distance would destroy the target. It's just gonna be a single, circle here on the neck. It's
Yeah.
going to be something devastating, just smashing the body. What's your understanding of the case of Charlie Kirk?
Well, as far as I can tell, there's no case against Tyler Robinson. And as far as I can tell, we don't have any of the relevant information. We don't even know if there's an exit wound because several of the theories trying to explain something when the authorities don't give us any facts. It's hard. But a couple of the theories rely on there being an exit wound. And so we don't know, do those people know something we don't know? If there's no exit wound, then it wasn't much of a round that was used. And what's really puzzling is that we don't have any information yet that they have the bullet or they don't have the bullet. Is there an exit wound? Is there not an exit wound? What authorities have declared that this was damage done by a 30-06? We don't know anything. So, but we keep getting theories, and some of them are starting to make sense. I think we discussed the palm gun theory, but now this has been changed, and that same film is used for an explanation that Charlie Kirk was actually murdered by his Israeli security service, who put on him one of those Israeli microphones that explodes, and that the man in brown that is seen aiming his palm at Charlie Kirk, that he's really sending a signal to detonate that explosion, and that explosion is what sent the thing in his throat and killed him. And it's a very thorough analysis because it points out that the man that we assumed might have had that palm gun, he's instantly over the railing. He's not in the least bit stunned or shocked, like everybody around him. He's fully aware, instantly over the railing, and he's down with Charlie, and the police are not controlling the crime scene. And he and some other people appear, and they seem to be policing the situation, getting any evidence. And then a video, they show that Charlie Kirk is being wheeled off, not to an ambulance, because he's already dead, but to a private Suburban. His body is loaded in a private car, and the man in brown gets in with him. And so that gives them the chance to change his shirt in case there's any powder residue or whatever. Well, this is starting to make sense. It makes more sense than the official explanation. And But who knows? I mean, they don't tell us. I don't understand why the FBI can't produce a statement that there is or is not an exit wound, um, and a statement that we have the bullet or we don't have the bullet. Why they can't produce some expert to say what weapon could possibly have caused whatever wounds they have. So it seems like it's just going to be allowed to die off. Um, I don't see how they could arrest Tyler Robinson because there's no evidence he did it. It's an assumption. And you're not supposed to arrest people on assumptions. And he may be guilty, but we don't have any evidence. So none of it makes any sense. It just doesn't make sense. And of course, Larry is completely correct that this wound that they show on Charlie is not an exit wound from a 308. It's just, there's no way. And if he was actually hit with a 308, the damage would be severe. It would just, so it does sound like whatever it was could have been that little exploding mic. You know, the Israelis use those to wipe out a large percentage of the leadership of of the Hezbollah militia, and so they could easily have. Since they apparently um, are the source of Charlie Kirk's security, it's an Israeli operation, but we don't have any confirmation of that. I mean, why can't the FBI say that his security was provided by so and so, and what their response is? You know, how come there wasn't any security? Well, I don't know that we can say anything. Um, there's no evidence available to us except that very, except those videos of the man in brown pointing at Charlie and at Charlie being carried off. Why? In a private Suburban is his body being removed? See, we are the police. This is so contrary uh, to the requirements and the practice of police to secure the crime scene. There's no effort to secure the crime scene. And private individuals go off with his body. It's, I don't know, it stinks to high heaven. There are no explanations that make any sense. The media, as far as I can tell, they just keep repeating the official narrative. He was shot by this man on the roof of the 306, 3006. It's nonsense. So I don't know, maybe they're just laughing at us, thinking they'll believe whatever we tell them, and they can't do anything about it anyhow. We don't need to give any explanations. Maybe that's the position we're in.
I don't know if you saw the guy who's gonna replace Charlie Kirk. He's a 19 years old. He's pro-Israel, by the way, and much connected. He's so much connected with Ben Shapiro, and he says that he posted just thanked Ben Shapiro for helping him, for inviting him on his podcast and all of this. But after all, Paul, I don't think that would be the movement that Charlie Kirk has created can be, you know, reformed, somehow reshaped by these guys that are trying to take over the movement, trying to redefine the movement. Because the movement was so much based on Charlie's personality, Charlie's quality, the way that he was communicating with the students at the campus. And I don't know how capable this new guy is, but he's totally pro-Israel, and they're trying to do their best to reshape the movement.
Well, I didn't know that that there was a successor chosen, and that he was pro-Israeli. Well, that indicates that this whole operation could have been an Israeli operation to take the movement away from Charlie, because he had become a danger to them. He was expressing skepticisms about the Israelis, and this was being passed on to the rising generation. And clearly, Israel does not want the rising generation of Americans to be skeptical about Israel. They can't, they have such complete control over the United States. They can't risk it with Charlie Kirk maybe leading the youth away. So if they already have an Israeli stand-in for Charlie to take over the movement, that strikes me as circumstantial evidence that Israel was responsible. And I agree with you that when any movement loses its leader, it's in its death throes, because the movement depends on the leader. It's not some sort of independent operation. That they do stress that Kirk's movement had a number of locations and offices and organization, but still, as you said correctly, he was the movement. So I don't know what will happen, except that we'll have another Israel lobby. That whether it's effective or not, there'll be now another Israel lobby speaking in Charlie Kirk's name.
Here is the guy, Paul.
What we're seeing going on right now across college campuses all over the country, specifically Yale and Columbia, they're getting shut down and overrun by these anti-Jew protesters, these pro-Gaza protesters, these terrorist sympathizers. That's what they are. Let's call it out for what it is. It's disgusting. It's vile. It's inhumane. Listen, the Democrat Party is being radio silent on this. Why? Because these are their own supporters. And in the case of Ilhan Omar, her actual daughter out there standing in the picket line and protesting this. It's disgusting. And they should be calling it out. It's pretty easy to come on and say, hey, we're pro-Israel. We're a pro-Jewish people. We're pro-America. It's that simple. But instead,
he's getting the lines of Charlie, but he's somehow tries to manipulate it the way he wants. And
well, from what I understand, Charlie had changed his mind, or was being critical, and clearly this person isn't. So I would, if I had to bet right now, I would say this was an Israeli operation to remove a threat to Israel's control of the United States. And you see that control is so secure now, not just with the elimination of Charlie Kirk, but there are all these reports, and Tucker Carlson takes them seriously. He recently discussed it on Glenn Greenwald's show. And Tucker says that Netanyahu is all over the place in the Middle East, bragging on how he has Trump completely under control, that Netanyahu, controls the president of the United States. But you see, Israeli prime ministers have been saying this for a long time. Many of them have stressed that they control the decisions in Washington. Well, for Netanyahu at this time to be stressing to Arabs that they really don't have any hope because he controls Trump. And of course, that helps him knuckle them under or get them to agree that he annexes Palestine, or what remains of it, into Israel. So if I was Trump now meeting with them again, this is the fourth time, the fourth time now he's been here this year. He's what is he? He's in the Oval Office giving orders to Trump. Well, if I was Trump, I'd say, "Hey, what are you doing going around telling everybody in the Middle East you control me?" If I was Trump, actually, I wouldn't see him. I'd say, deport him. But I haven't heard Trump challenge the Netanyahu's claims that he controls the president of the United States. I doubt that the American media, NPR or CNN or any of them, ABC, Fox News, New York Times, I doubt any of them have reported these claims that Netanyahu is going around the Arab world making. So the Americans won't know unless they hear it from Tucker.
Paul, one of the main concerns right now is the war with Iran. It seems that looking at the movements of the fighter jets, the same sort of movement before attacking Iran, before Israel attacking Iran, it seems that they're moving the fighter jets in Europe and around Iran. And what is so amazing, Paul, just I was watching one of the head of Security Council, the parliament, Security Council of the parliament in Iran, the former head of, he was talking with the Iranian media. He said that it was in Persian. He said that he knows that Iran has the power to bring this sort of war to Armageddon. And that would be the end. And they're not going to go that way. Iran is prepared for that. I don't know how he was talking with the Iranian media. Of course, they don't talk. The Iranian president said in with his interview on Fox News said that we don't have nuclear weapons and we are not seeking nuclear weapons. That's why if the main goal of the Trump administration is to do that, we're ready to sign any sort of agreement. But when you go to that far, attacking a country of 91 million people, and you somehow believe something, a miracle would happen, it's a regime change or everything, house of cards, which wasn't the case during the 12 days of war. I don't know, how is the understanding in Washington? How do they see the situation, and why are they so much in the hand of Netanyahu in terms of new war if they go in that direction with Iran?
Well, you're asking what sense does it make for Washington to be thinking like this? But of course, I would reply and say, where did you see any sense in Washington's thinking? Where? On what front? What issue? I don't see any sense anywhere. So we can simply conclude they're just not sensible people. They're used to prevailing based on their hegemony or the world's acceptance of them prevailing. See, the question to me is if Iran is expecting to be attacked, why are they sitting there and waiting on it? Why don't they attack first?
Mhm.
Why don't they just go ahead and wipe Israel out? Well, why is Iran sitting there and risking itself? Why doesn't it just sink all the American ships in the area, wipe out Israel, and be done with it? Blow up all the American bases. Why let them strike you first and do damage to you, and then you have to come back? I don't understand it. If Iran expects they're going to be attacked, they should strike. They should at least destroy Israel. They can do it. So I don't see any sense anywhere in this. As you know, we've talked about it many times. I don't see any sense in Putin's policy. In fact, it's related. Let's talk about that for a minute. There was a couple of days ago, I think I wrote about it. The Russian foreign ministry spokeswoman, Maria Zakharova, she said that the Russian foreign intelligence security had uncovered a plot to in the West to have a false flag attack on itself that they could blame on Russia. Estonia and Poland and Moldova were involved in this. And she said, if they do this, we'll be at World War III. Well, I was struck that it was the spokeswoman saying it and not the foreign minister himself. So again, it looks like the foreign minister really doesn't want to own up to the situation. So the spokeswoman asked to do it. And then it started making sense of the false reports from Estonia and Poland that Russian aircraft and Russian zones had entered their territory, because that's setting up in the public's mind throughout the West that Russia's doing aggressive things against them. So it sets the stage for a belief that Russia made some attack on them. And so it all looks plausible. And then we have the report that there are U.S. troops in Romania and apparently Moldova. And then there's a report that I've never seen confirmed, but there's a report that there are French and British forces have landed in Odessa. That's the only port that in Ukraine that Putin has left out of Russian control. So what that means is that tiny sliver of land along the Ukrainian and Moldovan border called Transnistria, which is a breakaway situation from Moldova, and it has Russian troops there occupying it as peacekeepers. Well, these troops are now trapped between Americans on one side and British and French on the other. And so here is a good way to start another war like in Ukraine. And then if this suspicion of a false flag attack up in the northern regions, the Baltics, Poland, then what's Russia faced with? It's faced with conventional warfare along a 1,000-kilometer front. Well, is Putin going to fight that? That's not a promising situation. So when Maria Zakharova says if there's this false flag attack, it means World War III. Then clearly the Russians intend to use more powerful weapons. They have that new missile, which is extremely destructive, but it's as destructive as a nuclear weapon, but doesn't have the radioactivity. Yeah, the Resnik. And as our friend John Helmer says, we're awaiting the Resnik moment. The Resnik moment. Well, maybe it's getting close. So what explains all of this? Because Clearly, Estonia and Poland, the governments, no, there's no Russian attack. Why are they in this pretense, which puts them at risk of receiving one of these missiles? It's nonsensical. It's totally nonsensical. Just like you say, it's nonsensical for the United States and Israel to think they have immunity to attack Iran. There'll be a reply, and unless Netanyahu talks Trump into using nuclear weapons. You see, why is Netanyahu in the White House now? What did he need to come over here for? I'm certain it has to do with an attack on Iran. And you would think that any journalist would come to that conclusion and be asking the White House, is Netanyahu here with Trump planning an attack on Iran? Well, nobody will ask him that. Not a single journalist. It's how different it is from my day when I was a journalist at the Wall Street Journal, for example. We would have had a half dozen people there asking, is this the beginning? Are you planning an attack on Iran? What's he doing here? Why is he here now? What is it helping? There's no questions. I don't know if the White House has given an explanation of why Netanyahu's here. But
They're talking about a new deal in Gaza.
yeah, the new deal, but Netanyahu has already said we're going to annex it. So he doesn't have to get Trump's permission. He wouldn't be here for that. Look, if he's confident enough to go around telling what little remains of the Arab world that Trump's under his thumb, that he controls America, then he can annex Palestine without getting Trump's approval. Just as he attacked the Hamas leaders in Qatar. He didn't ask Trump's approval. Later, Trump said he did, just to cover up that he no longer has any influence. So there you have it. It all looks to me very very risky, uncertain situation. And again, like Charlie Kirk, we don't have any information. There's not any information. The media is very silent, and they don't want to know. There's no asking. I haven't followed the movement of the jet fighters, but if your report or what you said is correct, and they look like they're forming up for an attack in that area, then the only target could be Iran. Then any kind of journalist, even a third-rate one, would see that there's a story here. We need to get into it, but they're not doing that. So I'm just very concerned that we're going to wake up one day and find the world's about to go up in flames.
Paul, the case of snapback sanctions, Russia said they don't care about what Europe is doing together with the United States. China has the same sort of position, and they don't see as it. They call it illegal and void. And do you feel? How do you see Europe is losing everything, Paul? In Ukraine, they're losing. They're losing the situation in the Middle East. They don't have a solid position on the case of Gaza, and I'm afraid it's going to happen with the case of China as well. They're going to lose China in the near future because the way that they're trying to do whatever they're asking, the people in Washington, the establishment is asking them to do, and they're totally prepared to sacrifice everything in Europe for the case of establishment.
Well, I think I saw this morning one poll that said Starmer, the British Prime Minister, had the support of 13% of the British population. 13%. So how is he even the Prime Minister? I mean, probably anybody could get 13%.
Yeah, Macron is the
You
same.
or I could probably get 13%. And then I saw also this morning, early, that the German Chancellor, he has 23%. So in what sense is he Chancellor of Germany if only 23%? So as I've said for a long time, the European politicians do not represent the ethnic nationalities that comprise those countries. The German Chancellor doesn't represent the German people. The British Chancellor doesn't represent the British people. They approve of him by 13%. But of course, the immigrant invaders, give him a high approval rating. Starmer is approved by the immigrant invaders, but not by his own citizens. So when you have countries who elect leaders that they don't have any confidence in, anything can happen. And as far as I can tell, the effective force is money. So any leader offered money is going to take it. And what does he do? He'll do anything to take it. And so selling out a country is routine. The people get sold out, and off go the rulers with bagfuls of money. I mean, remember what was the British Prime Minister, the last Labour leader, Tony? You know who I'm talking about. He was anyhow. The last I heard, he was worth something
Tony
like
Blair? You're talking
what?
about Tony Blair?
Yeah, Blair. Yeah, Blair. The last I heard, he was worth something like 200 million pounds. Well, where did that come from? The Clintons worth $200 million. Where did that come from? So I think that they're bought. They're just bought, and they serve who pays them. And this is the way the United States controls countries. They simply buy the leadership. So what it really means is that nobody's thinking about the issues that you're asking questions about. The governments, they're not concerned with it. They're concerned, am I going to get my money? You see it everywhere in the society. Look at the corporations. What are the corporations concerned about? Are we going to get the quarterly bonus? Are we going to get the quarterly bonus? And they don't think about, is there going to be a company here in 2 years? So I think your questions are hard to answer because they assume there's an operative intelligence that's trying to produce a good result for the society or the country. But this is an old mode of thinking. I was brought up in that way of thinking. But I've seen enough. I don't think it's operative anymore. I don't think there are any longer politicians or leaders, as they're called, who are trying to produce a good result for the public interest. They're using the government to produce a good result for them. And so the way they approach the kinds of issues that you're raising is, how do I come out of this with the most money? So there isn't any thinking. There's just an agenda. and everyone serves it, and in return they get money. So I think that there you have it, and the agenda seems to be that of the neoconservatives, the Zionist neoconservatives. They're running the agenda that American military hegemony in the service of Israel. That's the agenda. American military hegemony in Israel's service. And so this means getting rid of anybody that would conceivably be in the way of greater Israel. And they keep showing their aggression by expanding the borders of greater Israel. It's no longer the Nile to the Euphrates, it's the Nile to Pakistan. So, and they say this openly. You can watch them on TV saying it. And then if you report it, everybody says, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic." They never said it. They never said it. They never said it. Well, you can say, "Well, look, here it is, right here. Here's on YouTube. Here's the TV. Here it is saying, here's Netanyahu holding up the chart." What do you mean didn't say it? He's even got a chart drawn. And they'll deny it. They deny, "Oh, it's anti-Semitic. You're anti-Semitic." I'm just reporting what the head of Israel said. Oh, if I report what the head of Israel says, why is that anti-Semitic? Was it anti-Semitic when he said it? I'm just reporting it. But so even the facts that are demonstrable can't be acknowledged. And so again, I'll ask Nemo, why does Iran look? Why does Iran sit there and wait? Makes no sense. They should have a strategic offensive war plan, and they should launch theirs before the Israelis and the Americans launch theirs. And I've never understood why all the Arabs, all these years since 1947, they never did anything. I never understood why the Palestinians never did anything and just let the Israeli settlers clean them out village by village. Over however many years it's been since that'd be 70 something years. The Jews have been cleaning out the Palestinians village by village, olive grove by olive grove. They've never united to stop it. Greatly, at one time, greatly outnumbered the Jews. They could have cleaned out the Israeli villages. Instead, they accepted violence and gave up and left and went into refugee camps. And I don't, if people won't fight for themselves, then they can't survive. And the Arab countries did the same thing. They sat there. First, they let the United States start a war between Iraq and Iran. Both governments fell for this. Why? Why in the world did the governments of Iraq and Iran say, "Oh yes, let's let the Americans use us to destroy each other"? It makes no sense. And then Afghanistan came under attack by the Americans, and everybody sat. And then it was Iraq, and they hang Saddam Hussein, and everybody sat. And then it was Gaddafi in Libya, and then it was the black Muslims in North Africa, Somalia, Sudan, and then Syria again, and finally they get Syria, and the Russians walk away from Syria after defending it. After defending it with their air force, it was Putin that stopped the invasion that Obama was trying to launch of Syria by putting in the air force that next morning. And then he walks away, and so Syria's gone. it's just extraordinary. And then, of course, we help Israel assassinate Iranian leaders. You know, that leader of the Revolutionary Guards. I think that was an American assassination of him, wasn't it? Wasn't that Trump? Trump's first term? What was that general's name? He was,
Soleimani.
yeah, yeah. I think that was a Trump assassination, but we did it for Israel. What did Trump need to assassinate him for? Because Netanyahu told him to. So you see, Netanyahu's not lying when he says he has this influence. It's a huge mistake for people to think that Israel is extremely powerful in terms of American foreign policy, particularly the Middle East. Indeed, as we've said many times, they're powerful about everything. American students that protest against Israel's treatment of the Palestinians get thrown out of the school. If you boycott, if you do some kind of boycott of Israel, either imports, exports, investment, you can't do business with the state. So Israel could even get the American state governments to pass laws that people who criticize Israel are punished in business ways. They can't have a state contract. They can't work for the government. Well, if that's not power, I don't know what it is. No other country can do that. I don't think it's anything like that's ever happened before on Earth. So, and what's really, it's really amusing while Netanyahu and the former prime ministers openly brag on their control over the United States. If you repeat it, there's a whole wall of people saying, no, they've never said that. They never said that. That's anti-Semitic. Well, so they're so powerful, they can declare something, and if you repeat it, a ton of bricks comes down on your head. So for them, it's true and false at the same time. Now, how can that happen? Well, of course, one reason is you don't have media. You have propaganda, you have a lie machine. Basically, the Western media is a lie machine. And all it does is it lies to support whatever the ruling narratives are. And so this is another reason there can't be any answers to your question, because nobody's going to provide any information or confirm or disprove anything. There's a narrative, and that's it. And if you diverge from the narrative, you're a conspiracy theorist, and you're not worth listening to. And peer pressure works. It really works. Most people don't have the emotional or mental strength to stand up and believe in something. They want to be with the crowd. What do you believe? Well, okay. What do you believe? Okay. You surround yourself. You don't want to have a belief you got to defend, so you adopt that, it appears. Most people do. I mean, there are always a few that speak out, but it's rare. So you asked the questions should be debated publicly everywhere in the media, and the media should be asking them. And they certainly should be asking what Netanyahu is doing in that White House right now. Are they planning an attack on Iran? I don't know what else they could be doing. And as for look, as far as the facts and practicality goes, Palestine is already annexed, isn't it? I mean, there's nothing. Gaza, as it is currently constituted, can't survive as it is. There's no infrastructure, no hospitals, no water, nowhere to live, no food. Everything's destroyed. And the West Bank, there's not a West Bank. There are a few little pinpoints of isolated settlements that the settlers haven't yet gotten to empty out. But there's not a West Bank anymore. If you look at the map, the West Bank's, it's a few little isolated places that aren't even connected. So all of a sudden we hear people again talking about the two-state solution. Well, there's no land for a two-state. What's the territory of the two-state? A few little pinpoints in the West Bank and massive destruction in Gaza, which was already an open-air concentration camp. Not a state. How are you a state when you have no control over your borders? You have no control over your own seacoast. You can't even manage your imports and exports. This is not a state. I was astonished to see the Russian government the other day say the solution is a two-state solution. Well, what are they talking about? What? This is not a Gaza state. It's gone. And the Israeli ministers, they keep saying that. And it's extraordinary how no aspect of anything truthful can be addressed. See, not even Charlie Kirk's assassination. It's this long after. We still don't know, is there an exit wound? We don't know where the bullet is or if there's a bullet. We have no idea how he was really killed. We're having to rely on interpreting a video, which seems to show it was a professional hit job with some high tech means, not even a rifle. We don't know. There's nobody, and no one is asking. There's no persistent reporter knocking on the FBI door saying, "What's an explanation? Give us an explanation. What's happened? How did this happen?" There's nothing. And we were told for days they don't have a bullet, and we were told for days it's no bullet, and then we're told the surgeon says there's no exit wound. Did it take them days to discover there was no exit wound? Well, in that case, there was no autopsy. Apparently, hasn't been one. And a bunch of non-police characters carry the body off in a Suburban. Now, how can this happen? This is a total violation of the requirement of the police to secure the crime scene. It's the police violating their own rules. Why? There wasn't any reason. There wasn't a massive terrorist firing into crowds. There weren't explosions. There was nothing for the police to abandon the crime scene and let a bunch of strangers into the crime scene and take it over. And if they were cleaning up evidence, and nobody said, "Hey, what's your name?" Or "Give me some ID," or "We want to question you." The whole thing is preposterous. It's not just what Larry says about the notion that this was a 30-06 that's preposterous, but the whole thing is preposterous. And it gets, who does it get comment from? You, me, Larry Johnson. So, anyhow, I don't mean to be ranting, but I'm trying to make people see that this is really an inexplicable situation. It's inexplicable.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Paul, for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Nima. Thank you
Great
for
pleasure as always.
thank you for raising these questions. It's going to be very interesting to see how this Charlie Kirk thing plays out. I suspect it'll just get pushed aside by the news. An attack on Iran will get rid of the Charlie Kirk thing and Tyler Robinson and so you stay on your toes, and I look forward to discussing things with you again. Thank you very much.
See you soon, Paul.
Goodbye.